Why did native peoples make totems? Why don't you know the answer? I mean, you saw the photos, right? In middle school when they would show you photos of big totems taller than any human could ever be, and yet you don't really know. Totemism is a title given to a group of characteristics in many religions, with many subsections, that are either too convoluted or lost to history to fully distinguish from one another. The main characteristic being the belief in an animal kinship or spiritual connection to another living thing like an animal or spirit. Normally, this animal or plant is then utilized as a symbol for a family or clan in a totem or other symbolic form. The word totem comes from the Anishinaabe word Atotumen, meaning one's brother or sister kin. Before we go any further into totemism, we have to understand the Anishinaabe context for their beliefs, beginning with their more common name in the States as Chippewa. In Canadian prairies, they're known as the Sato, and in historically southern Ontario, they're known as Mississauga. The name they fall under lawfully is Anishinaabe, meaning the original peoples, and made their first impression with their amazing fur trades in 1640. They were later known for their medicine making, canoes, utensils, and social hierarchy without being in contact with a large number of members. These smaller groups are described as bands, though I am holding it to a historical definition. This is how colonizers understood the social identity of these groups, or, in other words, their tribes. Trying to decolonize the language, the better way to describe these groups is easy, using words like groups, families, and other civilians. Tangent aside, the Anishinaabe are the largest group of natives still alive and active in North America. The root word "ote" refers to the blood connection a biological sister or brother would have, alluding to the common idea of marrying or dating outside of your totem being. When the British were translating this idea, they ignored the real meaning and based it off of what they understood to be a guardian angel or spirit, or animal or spirit. Guardian angels come way later. When they saw the Anishinaabe wearing hides of their clan spirit or animal, this is what they assumed. Peter Jones debunked a lot of these previous ideas of totemism from 1791 with his writings as late as 1856, depicting his people as smarter than assumed by the original colonizers and explaining the moral and ethical reasons for the clans to prevent incest. Peter Jones is interesting in his own right, so let's fall down this little rabbit hole for a minute. Living to 54, Peter Jones, originally named as Sacred Eagle Feather, was a man of self-hatred and victim to whiteness like most British men of the centuries previous and continuing. At 14, he chose to leave his mother and native roots and moved in with his father, a Welsh-born British loyalist who also fell victim to the idea of whiteness. Though his leave was in fear more than hatred or resentment of the group, wars broke out against the white settlers. A lot of people in his living area died, and on top of that, his faith in his mother's religion wavered. When it was his time to see the visions so many in his area did, he saw nothing. Religions or spiritual practices proved to be lame in his experiences. This also pushed him towards other ideas like Christianity. Explaining my point about whiteness further, whiteness is an idea, a race, not an ethnicity, which other white people use to erase the ethnic history we all have. This erasure gives a pure blank slate to allow anyone identifying with it feel exempt from the horrors of the past or to feel superior against non-white people. We prove that whiteness isn't real by redefining it when it benefits, in this case, the US government. For example, Irish, Italian, and Jewish Americans, even when classified or seen as Caucasians, were not defined as white until World War II, when the atrocities of human idealism woke everyone up for about a generation. Peter Jones tries to assimilate to this idea of whiteness, purity, and moral preservation by converting to Methodism at age 21. Soon the people in power at his church decided to take advantage of his bilingual abilities to preach to the Anishinaabe in hopes of conversion, though he began to despite his role when he felt the majority of people coming to hear his preaching were only there to see the spectacle of a native man speaking and dressing as a white man, instead of the white man he truly felt he was. In 1825 and after, he was a political leader and fierce advocate for lawful recognition of Anishinaabe groups in Canada, allowing chiefs and leaders to have access to public funding even after his early death. All of this context is to show what life was like for these peoples, or at least their documented life. But there were many other groups that believed in totemism and subsections of it. This is why we can't call totemism its own religion, since it's an aspect of a religion, or a collection of beliefs, including but not limited to animism, shamanism, and ancestor worship. This type of totemism we see in Anishinaabe groups is actually called group totemism. which is different and normally more systemic and than individual totemism. Group totemism normally is characterized by its hereditary passing of a totem spirit or animal, keeping titles and names based on the totem, fears or ideas of karma surrounding the harm or killing of the totem symbol, and the additions of multiplex totems from historical successes, losses, or growth. Multiplex meaning they could have a totem of multiple animals or spirits that documents, for example, the winning of a war or something important. Some communities believe that the original totem animal was from a historically related person who could shapeshift into the totem animal or had a spiritual connection to the animal or spirit. This allows for nuance between groups of different totems having one originating ancestor, but two split off groups. This is possible, but not necessarily common. Groups who believe in this type of totemism are natives in North America, Australia, herdsmen in North or Central Asia, and some Siberians, and some groups in Africa. Individual totemism is characterized as an individual's spiritual connection to a living thing. This follows some ideas of shamanism and Mexicana ideologies like Nawali, meaning something hidden or veiled and referring to shapeshifters or sorcerers with an animal spiritual tie. There are millions of groups who follow this aspect of their religion or belief. Today, we only talked in depth about Anishinaabe groups, but there are more to come next time on the Citra Archives. Thank you for walking with me.